Jambo, Caribou, Asante for watching. My name is Simon Hill. Hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, share this video. I'm filming this video in Arusha, Tanzania, and I am traveling abroad as I've been doing for the past few years, and this video will be a part of my classic, legendary, infamous series called Blaxit, describing my experiences as a Black American traveler abroad in different countries and spaces. Let me start this video by first making this brief preface. I am aware of my privilege as an American to be able to travel more freely than most of the world because of my passport privilege. I'm also aware of my privilege as a man to be able to travel more freely and not worry about things that a female traveler might have to worry about. And I also want to be aware of the history of colonialism and the humanization that happened across Africa, not excluding Tanzania, which is still facing the effects of years of brutal colonial empire that was brought upon it by the British, as it did most parts of Africa by the French, the Portuguese, etc. So I want to make this clear that I'm not punching down on Tanzania. I'm not trying to denigrate a country or its people. And I also want to say that I'm making this video primarily for Black American travelers. If you are not a Black American watching this video, please come into this with an open mind and an open heart, willing to listen. And if you have anything that you dispute, how about you do this? You turn on the camera, you bring your butt here to Arusha, Tanzania, and you tell me what it's like to be a Black traveler abroad. Until then, shut up and listen. Now, I also want to mention that here in Tanzania, this is one of the most culturally diverse places in the world. Like most countries in Africa, Africa is not homogenous, though the people here are generally all Black. There are many different languages spoken here in Tanzania, many different religions, Muslims, Christians, animists, all sorts of things here. So whatever I say in this video is not to paint all Tanzanians in a broad brush, because this is more diverse than any other country that I've done this sort of video on. But I want to be clear that I'm talking about my experience and what I observe. So let's get into it. I came here in Tanzania on October 30th after spending 3 months in Mauritius for my honeymoon. I got married last year in May in Turkey to my beautiful wife. We spent 3 gorgeous, amazing months in Mauritius to begin our backpacking journey across Africa. And Tanzania was the next country on our list, and there was no country I was more excited to go and experience. When I travel, I don't stay in fancy tourist resorts. I don't go and stay in 5-star hotels. I'm outside with the local people like this because, number one, I want to, and two, I work online as an English teacher abroad for people in Peru and Chile. So I'm not a rich American asshole traveling the world spending US dollars like it's pocket money and it's free, right? I do this because I generally love the people of the third world, and I generally feel like I'm a part of the people of the third world, and I want to really experience what it's like to be abroad, right? And everything I say in this video, by the way, will be me, honest, and from the heart. My channel is not monetized. I don't make a dollar from these videos. So everything I say is the absolute truth as far as I see it. So like I said, I plan to come here and spend 3 months in Tanzania after arriving here on October 30th. I'm filming this video on January 8th, and tomorrow I will be busing my way to Mombasa, Kenya. Coming here, I was looking forward to it for many reasons. As you know, in the United States and many parts of Western Europe, Black people are victims of the white supremacist violence that exists not only physically on us, but also mentally on us. Being in America, being in Europe, being in most parts of the world, as Black people, we are stereotyped and have negative perceptions about us everywhere we go. So to come to a fully Black nation, I was expecting the opportunity to finally be free, to finally not be judged first by my skin color, or to fight against perceptions that you might have about my penis size, or about how strong I am, or fast I am, or how dumb I am. I was finally able to be in a place where I could just be a person and people will accept me as that. And coming to Tanzania, those very first few moments, those first few days, the ability to be anonymous as a person and to be a blank slate and not have to fight against those ideas was a breath of fresh air. It's something that you can't explain. So yes, for Black American travelers, if you do come to Tanzania, there is that precious, precious brief moment of feeling like you're in a place where our blackness is not a hindrance. It's just a part of life, right? So that's a great thing. And it's also good to see so many beautiful Black people and experience being around us, being ourselves, from the music to the dress to the culture. It's great to be around that and to experience that being in Africa. But then my heart started to get broken as I started to experience more and more of what it's like to be here in this section of Eastern Sub-Saharan Africa. And the biggest problem that I have is that as Black people, we should be aware that we need to look out for each other because the world does not look out for us. While being here, not only in Tanzania, but in Mauritius as well, I've heard talk about this Pan-African idea that Africa is for Africans, that welcome to Africa, we need to take care of Africa and take care of Africans. But when you're out and about, that is not the case. The biggest problem here in Tanzania is the constant ripping off, cheating, and corruption that happens in the streets. Listen, I don't speak Swahili, and it's impossible for me as a traveler to learn every single language of every country I go to. And some people might say, well, if you spoke Swahili, you wouldn't have gotten ripped off. But me just being a man, being a person, being a Black man here in this country, I should be able to get treated fairly. I shouldn't have to pay extra just because I speak English or speak a certain way that I have to now pay 2,000-3,000 shillings more for the same product as somebody else. Or you think you can get one over on me just because you think that I'm a rich American. Newsflash, buddy, those same white people here in Tanzania that you run after saying jumbo jumbo to, back in their countries, they treat us like shit, and I'm no different. Black people are at the bottom in America. It's very rare for a Black American to be able to travel abroad and to come to Africa and stuff like that because financially we're blocked out of that for several different reasons because of those same white people that you guys worship so much here. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But as a Black man in Africa, if we're really all about this Pan-Africanist unity and all this sort of stuff, why are we cheating each other? Why are we fucking over each other in the prices? And listen, being here in Tanzania, it's been more often that I've been tried to get ripped. It's been more often to happen that they have tried to rip me off rather than I get a fair price and a fair deal. Yes, there have been good Tanzanians that have not tried to, steal from me. There have been good Tanzanians that have not tried to, get into my pockets. But that's the exception rather than the rule. And that's not fair. Some people might say, well, you're a foreigner and we should treat all foreigners like this. But what happened to this? What happened to this? This is just an idea. And this is why Tanzania broke my heart, because it killed all of this idea about Pan-African unity, because it's not real. It doesn't exist. We don't see Indians fucking over each other like this. We don't see Arabs fucking over each other like this. We definitely don't see white people fucking over each other like this unless they're going to war. So how come Black people constantly have to fuck over each other? And some people might say, well, it's not because you're a foreigner, it's because they would do this to even a Tanzanian person. That's not right. Even if they do this to other Tanzanian people, it's not right. As Black people, we should be able to treat each other better than this. Secondly, and I jumped ahead of myself here, but I'm going to get to this point. What I've seen here in Tanzania is the worshiping and chasing of whiteness. I made a video about this, the whitening soap I've seen in Zanzibar. I spoke about how here in Tanzania, that when they see a white person, it's all jumbo, jumbo, hello ma'am, hello mister, all this sort of stuff. Some people will say, well, the tourism industry is a big part of our country, and that's how we, take care of ourselves, grow our economy, get foreign currency into our system. That might be true, but does that mean that you have to bend over backwards to try to get a white person's attention? Does that mean you have to bend over backwards to try to smile, grit, and tap dance in their face? Stuff I've literally seen. I've literally seen a black woman chasing down a white man to try to take a selfie with him. I've literally heard black men say, I want to be around white people because white is beautiful and I'm trying to go to Europe. This is insane. This is the stuff that in my country, in America, and everywhere else, black people have been abroad who have been living around white people for generations. We know how wicked the devil can be, and we know how sick white supremacy can be, and we've been fighting against this since the very beginning, and it breaks my heart that here in Africa, bro, that they're worshiping whiteness at this level. This level of coonery that I've seen here in Africa would make Ben Carson sick, would make Candace Owens sick. Like this, and if this is why I make my videos for black Americans, because if you're a black American, you would get those references. The point I'm trying to say is, I'm not expecting Tanzanians to start being rude to white people or rude to foreigners or rude to tourists who are not black. That's not it. But you don't have to accept this sort of behavior as natural and normal. Stop all this grinning in their faces, laughing extra hard, chasing them down, yelling "Jumbo, Jumbo," just because you think they're rich. Stop. Please stop. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to see black people act like this around white people, around non-black people. Another thing I want to point out, there have been many people who, in my previous videos about other non-black countries, they've said, well, if you don't like it in X country, Serbia, Turkey, why don't you go to an African country? I am. Welcome. I'm here. And I'm still talking the same spice, because white supremacy anywhere is wrong. Secondly, they've been saying, well, as a white guy, if I went to Africa, they would be racist against me too. Absolutely not true. I spoke about this even before I made it to sub-Saharan Africa, but the perception of whiteness around the world is always of power, privilege, money, and prestige. It's not followed by views of, refugees, criminality, sexual violence, ignorance that is perceived with black men. Those same images and negative stereotypes that are created about black people are created by the same people who would tell me if I went to Africa as a white man, they would be racist against me. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and it's been proven absolutely not true. Not true. The fourth thing, I forgot what number I'm on. I'm not drunk. I'm telling the actual truth. I just get very hot and sometimes lose track. But the fourth thing I want to bring up is that they have allowed so many European tourists to come to Tanzania that the pricing for things have been skewed out of proportion. Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro starts at around $2,500 a person. Climbing Mount Meru starts at around $800 or $900 a person. Going on safari for one day is about $400. Now, if you're a rich person of any race, sure, that's no problem. But we all know that the majority of wealth in this world is controlled and owned by people in Western countries who tend to skew white. So you have allowed white European tourists to block out other black people from the diaspora who want to reconnect to their roots, reconnect to the continent, come and contribute to the continent, and they're blocked out from enjoying that because Gertrude from Germany spent $6,000 to go to safari, so now the price going forward is $7,000 and up. So now what are black Americans supposed to do? What are black British people supposed to do? Black French people, black people in the Caribbean, black people in Latin America who want to try to come back to Africa. Now we're blocked out because why? Those same colonizers who divided these countries, divided Kenya, divided Tanzania, divided Rwanda, have now made it so impossible for us, other black Africans, to be able to enjoy Africa. Now some people might say in that response, you're saying that you have a birthright to a land, Simon? Isn't that contradictory to what you said? Isn't that racist? If Europeans can have the same thing, if all other groups of people can have the same thing, why can't black people have the same thing? Why can't we have places that we enjoy, that we go, and that we're able to access all the beautiful nature that has been blessed on that land? Yes, I'm saying that. There's nothing wrong with that because every other group of people does it. So why can't we do it? Now, some people might say, well, we have the East African community, so there's the East African price. So if you come from Rwanda to Tanzania or Kenya to Tanzania, you can climb Kilimanjaro for cheaper. But what if I was a black South African? What if I was a black Nigerian? What if I was from Morocco or Tunis or Egypt or any other of the other countries in Africa? And I want to come and be a part of what is here in Tanzania, which is also a part of Africa. I'm blocked out now because why? The Polish can spend $8,000 to climb Kili as a group, but we can't. It's not fair. It's not right. As Africans, as black people, the only assets we control in the world are our countries and our cultural output, our music, our films, our books, our art, and our own countries. And our countries aren't even really our own countries because they're colonial constructs. Okay, so there was another thing I want to bring up. Being in Tanzania has also reminded me a lot of America in the fact that black people don't even own the businesses and capital here. Back in America, when you go to the corner store, you're going to buy your alcohol, your cigarettes, your chips, your bread from an Arab, a Turk, an Indian, or an Asian. Here, Tanzania, generally the same thing. Yes, there are some black-owned businesses, but I've been shocked. I have been shocked by the level of entrepreneurship and capital that is owned and created by people many people would consider non-African. Now, I'm not trying to discredit Indian Africans who have lived here for generations, or white Africans who have lived here for generations, or Chinese Africans, etc., etc., etc. But how come it's the same thing everywhere I go? That we don't own anything, we can't create anything, we can't create businesses and entrepreneurship for ourselves. It's sad and embarrassing that I came here to Tanzania and most of the money, the thousands of dollars that I spent being here for about 2.5 months have probably not gone into black hands. That's a shame. No other group of people goes through this. When you go to Turkey, your money is going to a Turkish person. When you go to Serbia, your money is going to a Serbian person. But when I come to Africa, my money goes to Arjum. It's not right. It's not right. It's sad and embarrassing, man. It's sad and embarrassing. Some people might say, listen, bro, you're taking this overboard. You're supposed to just come to Tanzania and have tourism and just enjoy the lions and the mountains and the views. As black Americans, we are coming back to Africa not to do safari. We don't give a fuck about safari. Let's be real. We don't give a fuck about safari. We don't give a fuck about going to Kili. We're looking to have peace because everywhere else in the world, we have no peace. And when we come to Tanzania, there is no peace because our people are fucking us over. We don't own any capital. And the shit that we want to do in our own continent is inaccessible to us based on pricing. And that's not right. And then on top of that, you see the Tanzanian people chasing after whiteness. And that's a big problem. It's a big problem. It broke my heart being here. Now, for any Tanzanian person who's watching this and you're getting mad at me in the comments, before you get mad at me, get mad at that Tanzanian person yelling Jambo, Jambo at every white person they see. Get mad at the Tanzanian person who's ripping you off on doing business. Get mad at the fact that every business that you go to is probably owned by some Indian family or white family. It's sad and embarrassing that this is happening in Africa in 2023. And for anybody who doesn't like what I have to say in this video, there are hundreds of other videos of black Americans who have come here and sucked the dick of this country and said, oh, it's great. Coming to Tanzania is great. Coming to Africa is great. I'm here to tell the absolute truth. It could be better. It could be absolutely better for us. And we don't need to accept this level of coonery, buffoonery, and savagery and thievery amongst our own people. It's insane. It does not need to happen. So, for many people, when my black ass is talking about my experience, they still don't believe me. They don't believe me. Because white supremacy only believes when a white person talks. When a white person says it, now it becomes fact. So I have my wife here, who just so happens to look white, though I don't know if she identifies as white or not.
I identify as Middle Eastern. Thank you.
That's fine. But here in Tanzania, she's categorized and viewed as a white person. So I just have a few questions for you. When you were here, do you feel like there was any sort of racism that you experienced as a white person? And even if you did, could it be comparable to the racism that a black person faces in mostly white countries?
Well, to summarize, the thing that I experienced here was like I would never say it was racism. It was more like this disturbing admiration. At least it was disturbing for me to be, greeted by everyone in the street, from the little 5-year-old babies to the 80-year-old men to the person selling something or a person not selling something. Everyone was greeting me. Everyone was trying to tell me something, ask me something. And it was kind of like this disturbing admiration from them towards me.
And do you feel like the only reason they had this disturbing admiration for you is not because of the clothes you were wearing or because of what you were doing, but it was simply because of the fact that you were white?
Yes, because I can say that because I've traveled the world. Like, I haven't been to all of the countries in the world, of course, but I've traveled to Europe, I've traveled to United States, I've traveled to Batumi, to Serbia, and I don't look particularly wealthy. Nobody in those countries, no people assumed that I was wealthy. Maybe they assumed that I was a foreigner, yes, but I've never had this type of reaction, this type of like excessive reaction. So I'm gonna assume that it's because I'm white.
And it's a fact. It's a fact. Did you hear a black person here say to you that they love white people and that they want to be in Europe because white is beautiful?
Yeah, so I was having a conversation with one of our tour guides in Zanzibar, and I was just asking him, like, are you studying, what are you doing, and whatnot, and then he said that he was studying, but he had to drop off, but then he wants to go to Europe. He asked me if I had European friends. I asked him why he wanted to go to Europe, because he said he wanted to be around white people, and I said, why? And it was very disturbing, and then he said, like, because white is beautiful. And I said, like, so is black. Black is beautiful too. And yeah, it was a very disturbing conversation.
And did you see the whitening soap sold here in Africa?
Yes, I actually showed you the whitening soap in Zanzibar. I was just trying to buy some soap for myself, and there were literally no options other than a whitening soap to buy in a small market in Zanzibar. I also saw it like 2 days ago in a cosmetics shop in here in Arusha as well.
Thank you, dear. I appreciate that. So,
one thing.
Oh, go ahead.
You told me to remind you, so.
I was about to say it right now. So, I'm just gonna wrap this up with this. Some people might say, Simon, you didn't have a good time in Tanzania because you're just not rich enough. You're just not wealthy enough. How about you work harder, buddy, and make some more money? The fact of the matter is, a country where many people live on, less than probably $300 a month, maybe less than that, and a country that allows European tourists to spend exorbitant prices on things should not make it so inaccessible to climb a mountain or go on safari and things like that, especially for black people in the diaspora. Yes, I'm making this claim now. Africa should be accessible for black Africans in the diaspora who want to come back and return. We want to contribute. We don't want to have to make these type of videos, but we will point out you guys, Africans, doing this white supremacist stuff, chasing after white people, saying this disturbing stuff to white people, selling whitening soap, and trying to rip off people and block out other people, especially black people, from accessing Africa. This is a problem. You guys are allowing so many of these white people, these white European tourists, to come through and disrespect the continent you guys are allowing so many white European tourists to come through and spend these exorbitant prices. They feel like they're lords over here. I was attacked by two Karens. If you're not familiar with what a Karen is a white woman, particularly, who tends to think that she's Lord on earth and she can tell other people, specifically non-white people, what to do. I was working at a cafe here in Arusha, Tanzania, and this white woman tells me that I shouldn't be working here. I'm working in my hostel the second time, and another white woman puts her hands in my face and tells me that I shouldn't be working here. This is the problem. If this is happening to me, to my black ass, bro, what are you guys dealing with? These white European tourists do not respect y'all. What do you think happens if your black Tanzanian ass were to go to Poland or Germany? Do you think it would be hello, hello, hello everywhere you go? Hell no. We know how they've been treating us. As black people, it's no longer a myth that when we go to these countries, these people treat us like absolute crap. In Libya, they sold us as slaves literally a few years ago. The Italians are letting us die in the Mediterranean. If you go to France right now in Calais, there's a refugee camp full of black Africans just like you guys, and the French are letting these people die, not giving them any sort of refuge at all. So nobody should be caping for Europeans at this point in modern history, period. So all this coonery that's happening here in Tanzania makes me really dislike this place, and all the thievery, all the cheating that's been happening to me and my money, my hard-earned money. Some people might say, oh, why do you care, you rich American, about 1,000 or 2,000 shillings more for a price? I don't stay up at night till 12 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. talking to Pablo, Jose, and Juan for me to give you my hard-earned money for no reason. No, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I'ma always stand up for me. I'ma always stand up for my money. I'm always going to stand up for what's right. I'm always going to stand up for black people and against white supremacy. And too much white supremacist ideology is happening here in Tanzania. So I do not suggest black Americans travel here until the Tanzanians get their act right. Period. There's nothing really here, by the way. There's nothing really here. There's nothing really here for us. There's no Pan-African ideal. There's no black unity. There's no black love. There's no justice for us. These Tanzanians are letting foreigners control business. They're allowing foreigners to come here and raise prices, and it's not accessible for the average black American. You're much better going different places. And I stand on every single word I said here. Period. So it breaks my heart to make this Blacksit video that's so negative about Tanzania, because I've had some good times here. I've had some really good times here. But the fact of the matter is, I will not stand silently by as I watch black people act like this, as I see them rob from each other and rob from me and allow Europeans to do what they're doing here. And shit, man, I said it all, and I hope it's all clear. I don't regret anything I said in this video. The only thing I might regret later is that I forgot something else that I forgot to mention, but I'll put it in the comments, and that's pretty much it. So I'm not giving up on Africa. Tomorrow I'm busing to Mombasa, Kenya to go explore there. I know Africa is a huge continent, the second largest continent in the world, with many different ethnicities and regions and places to experience. But from what I've seen of Tanzania, after living in Dar es Salaam, after living in Zanzibar, after living in Arusha, I'm just not impressed. I'm not impressed. And I hope that we as people can get it together, I didn't talk about, how the Tanzanians have a horrible body odor. I didn't talk about how the Tanzanians don't brush their teeth, and a lot of them have rotting teeth. I didn't talk about how a lot of the Tanzanians are probably illiterate. I didn't bring up any of that stuff because I'm not trying to shit on the country. As you notice, I didn't say that stuff to shit on the country. I only brought up the stuff that's a major problem, and you guys need to fix it. So this has been Blacksit with Simon Hill. I hope you watched the entire video from beginning to end. Peace, love, and happiness, and Maisha Metaphor.